We are the stars, so winter and stars. We've come from afar beyond time. Forever the fire burns in our hearts.
Hello and welcome back to Hive Prometheus. Today I wanted to go ahead and go over a matchup that I had in a scrimmage match in preparation for my RTT that's coming up on the 30th of March. It was against Deathguard, and I specifically wanted to go up against somebody that initially I was a little intimidated to go against in the RTT. This would give me some experience into an army that I haven't played into this edition, and I played on the hardest mission for round 3. It is Vital Ground that doesn't have a center objective, and I needed to find a way to split my forces a little bit better on this map, but I'll go ahead and show that in the pictures coming up after I go over my army list real quick. Okay, just quickly go over my list here. I've got the 3 HQs. I might have reviewed this list in a previous video, but I'll go over quickly again. I've got a little bit of my Battle Shock tech with the Neurotyrant and the Neurolictors. I've got Old One Eye as a rapid ingress threat. Death Leaper is also a infiltrator with the Neurolictors. I've got a case of the Terrible Twos with 2 Maleceptors, 2 Harspexes, 2 Exocrines, and 2 Tyranifexes, one with Rupture Cannon, one with Acid Spray, and then 2 squads of 10 Gargoyles, my Rippers, and my Biovore for my scoring units at a even 2,000 points. I have no enhancements. There aren't really any enhancements in Crusher Stampede that I would take other than Ominous Presence for 15 points. So just a quick rundown of the list that I was running here. All right, so looking at the map here, all of the deployments for all 3 rounds and all of the deployment types will be the same in the RTT that I'm going to. The specific deployment I can't remember right now, but it splits it down the middle just like this. And then you have 4 objectives for Vital Ground on this mission. The center 6-inch radius that you see on the board there is specifically just for deploy teleport homers and area denial. Just to go over what the opponent had, he had 2 knights that were the Melta and Gatling variants. He had 2 squads of Nurglings here and here. He had a squad of 3 Death Shroud Terminators here and here, each with a sorcerer, 3 Plague Burst Crawlers, Rodigus, Mortarion, and then 2 squads of 10 cultists, nothing in reserves. He kind of just had a lot of meat for me to deal with, which I'm totally okay with. It's easier in theory for me to deal with than a lot of MSU squads. This was actually after movement on first turn. I had moved some monsters out a little bit before I had taken the picture of this Maleceptor and this Neurotyrant were coming to the corners to do investigate signals. I wish I had not drawn that first round. I will admit I made a mistake in deployment right off. I chose my opponent to be defender because I was intimidated and I wanted to see where his units were going to go first, when really I should have been the defender and placed first so that I could put my Neurolictors towed onto this objective here, and I could have screened out the Nurglings outside of 9. This also put me on the back foot because I was reacting to his placement of the Nurglings with my infiltrators, and by then he had already put one of his Chaos Knights within reach of one of the objectives, and I was a little too timid to go up against him with his Meltas with the Neurolictor, and I put him behind this building here. I should have been a little bit more bold and put my Neurolictors here and here. Not a catastrophic mistake, it just would have helped even out the score just a little bit, which I'll get to. Again, a lot of the shooting lanes here were advantageous only if he came in front and to me. The way I play this Crusher list is a little bit of a trapdoor list, and I want things to kind of come within 8 to 12 inches so that I can move, shoot, charge, and do all of my shenanigans in the fight phase or the charge phase. For opponents who kind of castle up like this Deathguard player did, I have hampered output just because his shooting and my shooting are roughly equal, and his armor saves on average are going to be better because he took the hyper-adaptive contagion to reduce my armor saves by 1 on top of the normal Deathguard contagion to reduce my toughness by 1. It ended up becoming a harder and harder game the longer we went into it because of the range of his auras. He could push up, and a lot of the things that do have 2-up armor or 3-up armor go to 3-up or 4-up, and then he has a lot of AP 1 through 3 weapons, specifically on the Death Shroud and the Plague Burst Crawlers. So I didn't really do too much this turn. I was just staging. I will admit, going into this next picture here, I believe it's on turn 3. I should have taken more pictures, but things were moving quickly. As you can see, we're on the clock. And so I wanted to make sure that I was playing appropriately and adequately so that I wasn't going to time out in this scrimmage game. So I believe this is the end of turn 2. I have rapid ingress Old One Eye into the back here. I am trying to get up and over to one of his Plague Burst Crawlers, and if I can kill even one tank, I am trading up 40 points. If some reason Mortarion doesn't come back and kill him, I could potentially pile in and kill another tank in the back line here. I am still kind of towing the line here, timid to come into this. I thought it was a carnivore that was a full melee loadout. It was not. It was the shooting loadout with the Meltas. Knowing that, I probably should have run in use Trampling Charge to get some mortals, get him into sustained combat, get the Maleceptor in there to give him -1 to hit, and when he's wounded, -1 to wound. But that was another just sort of, I think it was an oversight on play experience against Deathguard. I also forgot that Deathguard only moved 4, so their threat range is pretty low. They don't have advance and charge. And Rodicus only moves 7 inches, and due to the terrain here, he had to go around a lot of hard corners on his approach up. He did eventually make his way to about here before I ended up blasting him away. I don't think that shows itself in the next picture here. So on turn, my top of turn 3, I did move my old One-Eye in this way. I made a charge, killed this Plague Burst Crawler. Mortarion did jump back to kill me back when I consolidated here. At this point, I had effectively lost this objective, and I said I was going to have to rotate to control these 2 objectives for the remainder of the game. I lost 2 turns of primary on this objective because I was timid to this Chaos Knight, and this ended up being what made me lose this game. So knowing that, just for how I should split my forces and be aggressive on this map helped, and I'm glad that I did play this because I knew that this was going to be the hardest map. I think I realistically should only keep 1 or 2 things back here against his Plague Burst Crawlers. I was trying to protect my Neurotyrant, so I was moving further and further into the back corner outside of 48 to force him to come up just a little bit, and I had Toad on my Tyrannifex here. Knowing that I'm going to have 2 strong points on these objectives, this is going to be my strong objective. I'm going to have to force him to come in and melee me. So I'm thinking that having a Maleceptor and the Acid Fex up here is just fine, and I'm wondering if I throw my Neurolictor down on this objective for the beginning of the game. So I just have 2 Battle Shocks and Death Leaper down here to proc the -1, and then this ends up being the objective that I try to shadow and warp everything to kill primary. If for some reason I do end up shadowing in the warp the scouts back here, that's great. I can swing the primary just 2 points, but the middle objectives for 5 end up being the big thing. On turn 3, I rapid ingressed my Haruspex here, and I was able to get an 8-inch move to about here and then charge. He had screened just a little bit with his Cultist up a little bit, so even with a normal move and a charge, I got right about here, and I was about 3.5 inches away from the objective, so when I killed these Cultists, I could not consolidate on. That would have been a 2-point swing there, on top of the 5 to 10 points that I had to forego not being aggressive on this objective. Also, my turn 1 investigate could have been 6 points instead of 4 if I had the Biovore on the board, but if he got first turn, I knew that these Plague Burst Crawlers would have killed the Biovore immediately. So there were a couple things that were stacked against me. It's just kind of luck of the draw, but there were also some things that technique-wise I could have fixed here. Final score being 65 to 70. I don't feel that terribly about this match. Going into turn 5, just to show you what it looks like before I sum up the remainder of the game here. This was the board state at the end of the game. As I said, I had lost objective 4. They had moved to objective 3, and the Death Shroud and the Knight were able to kill my Tyrannifex. I was able to stave off and kill Rodicus, and the Death Shroud up here, I was able to kill only that 1 Plague Burst Crawler. This Plague Burst Crawler was actually alive over here to shoot at my Haruspex that wasn't able to pile in. So in the final 2 turns, I end up losing a lot of stuff. So I really, knowing I'm probably going to lose more stuff later in the game because of the auras, should be more aggressive turns 1 through 3. I think I have to play it a little more fast and a little more loose. So not a bad turnout for this, and I'm glad that I got some experience on a heavier terrain style. We're going to play WTC, as you can see with the footprints, and Vital Ground being a mission that I've only played twice previously. This Deathguard opponent is very practiced with this army, and I'm glad that I could almost essentially go to toe-to-toe, especially with the Crusher Stampede list. If you were taking a similar list and playing an Invasion, I think you would have no problem playing against this, because the infantry here don't really scare you. You've got 3 damage weapons on the Maleceptor and the Exocrines. The things that scare you are Morty, Rodicus, the Knights, and the Plague Burst Crawlers, and getting lethals on those is probably pretty sweet. I think Deathguard in this case is a little bit of a harder matchup, specifically for us, because taking our Gaunts from T3 to T2 and then also worsening their armor save could potentially make it so they have 7-up saves. That's only for Gargoyles, but Gaunts would go from 5-up to 6-up as well. Now, I don't know if they would take the same hybrid contagion against an Unending Swarm or a Vanguard list, but them having a hyper adaptive like Tyranids used to have in 9th edition makes me a little envious. I wish that we had something that we could proc at the beginning of the game other than a redeploy for Vanguard or the small redeploy in Invasion Fleet. Crusher Stampede really stands on its somewhat good armor saves at 2-up, 3-up, 4-up infolds, and it's relatively high toughness. So even shaving 1 point of toughness off of T12, T11, T10, or T9 in the case of Old One Eye or the Neurotyrant really does hurt. So I think Deathguard are kind of just a little bit of a soft counter for Tyranids right now. They're going to be one of our harder matchups. But as I explained in the video there were multiple opportunities for me to shore up those points that I only missed by about 2 or 3 or 5 in the case of the primary. So I think if I had to play this list again and this opponent again, given a better card draw, I probably could eke out a win by about 5 points. I do think I have about a 10-point swing built into the list here, and a lot of it was just my piloting. So I'm glad I got a rep in with Crusher Stampede after 14 games of only wins in scrimmage matches. I've specifically been trying not to tell people how well or how badly I've been doing with it because I want it to be a little bit of a sleeper build. Now, if I end up going into an RTT or GT and I just get slapped, totally fine. Crusher Stampede is a little bit of a meme, and I just love monsters and I'm trying to make it work. So if there's anything that's a take home here, if you're going to tournaments and you're only taking invasion and you're getting kind of tired of it, try something new out. It's totally fine. Also, we surpassed 300 subscribers, I believe yesterday. I want to thank everybody for watching the content, liking the videos, subscribing. I reached this milestone, honestly, twice as fast as I thought. I thought given how YouTube is, and given the relative quality that I'm able to get out to you guys as a one-man operation, I really appreciate it. At the end of the day, you guys are going to be what makes this channel work. I'm just a facilitator. So I want to thank you all. Thank you for giving me your time, and I hope you learned something today. And I'll see you next time on Hive Prometheus.